for those that don't know me, I'm Jeff Guberman. I'm the CEO of Ivy Capital. Very excited to be here and extremely excited to have Jake Zerino, excuse me, with me he is the president of Caliber Living. Now, just starting with Jake. So Jake grew up in the student housing business. His parents bought and renovated rental homes in his hometown, and he spent his weekends on the job sites working alongside his dad. Then he took a leasing job at the Woodlands of Tuscaloosa and quickly became one of the property's top leasers. From there, he ran leasing and property management for communities from Baton Rouge to Athens. He earned his real estate license and learned the brokerage and investment side of the industry along the way. And then he joined Caliber Living, and he built the leasing department from the ground up, designed a custom sales training program as the leasing director, and helped shift the entire company into third-party student, more than 5,000 beds across 12 markets in the Southeast. So really, really impressive. He's also the founder and the managing broker of Boutique Properties, his own investment brokerage, leasing an in-town management company back home in Atlanta. So he went from a kid on a weekend job to running a 5,000 bed operation. So please welcome Jake. Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me, Jeff. It's good to be here. That sounds like I like when you read it that way. It sounds good.
Like that?
You could be like the next Tom Hanks, maybe.
Fingers crossed. I got to do something. So I've been working with Caliber Living for, I guess, 2.5, maybe 3 years. When we bought Campus Edge in Milledgeville, Georgia, we brought you guys on as the manager. And from the first day that we started working with you guys, I was really impressed with the culture. I think it's pretty easy to find a management company that has process down, and you guys do have process down. But what I really loved were the people and the culture that Caliber had. And then as I've been working with you for the last 2.5 years, and now you've got, I don't know, about 1,200 beds for us that you're managing. I'm actually going to be up to like 2,400 in the next couple weeks.
Right. That's
Um,
right.
uh, Through that process, you got promoted from the head of leasing to now you're running the entire show. So
hmm
I'd
Yeah.
love to hear from you. Tell us about your journey at Caliber, but then I really want to understand what was it like to all of a sudden have the entire thing on your shoulders? What did that feel like?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have Atlas right here behind me. So,
That's right.
that and Teddy Roosevelt constantly remind me what that's like. So a little bit of that. No, and thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It definitely, was a process to go through in my head. I love kind of being a leader and working with people, and I think in what we do, properties just happen to be the medium from which we do that, right? So we're really in the people business. So it works out well. I would have to say, definitely thought about my age. I'm 32 years old and running a multi-million dollar company. So that's not necessarily lost on me. But I think the biggest transition going from just truly having your hands in everything and on everything and making the things go every day, making it look easy, is just kind of that going from doing to then leading. And there's certainly a shift in mindset there. So there's a lot you do in just what you say and how you do things and setting examples and just kind of being there on the front lines and being able to demonstrate that with all the people that make our company so great. When I was way back in the day, in Tuscaloosa and Baton Rouge with Biff Ramsey, when I was at Dovetail, we had the kind of go jump in the dumpster mentality at turn. So, if it was the president of the company, Scott Hollingsworth, or Biff, who was in charge of all of operations, we were just 19, 20-year-old kids trying to make extra money in college. But, these guys would show up from Athens or wherever, and everyone would jump in the dumpster. So I never really forgot that, obviously. And so to this day, I kind of carry that in of that, I think one of the core understandings we have at our group is that there's no one here that is too good to jump in the dumpster. And if you start there, especially in terms of turn, which anybody on the call who as an operator or familiar with it, you know what turn is. It's the crucible. Um, if you start there, it only goes up from there. And so, but that's kind of speaks to the mentality of who we are, how we do it, and how I think like in our industry, you know, things have to get done. You have to get your hands dirty.
I love that. I love that. Never too good to jump in the dumpster. I've not heard that
Right.
one before, but I love it. I will likely use it. Um, you're definitely a natural born leader. What was it like when you've got all these people that you've worked alongside for so many years, and now you are the leader? What did that feel like?
Mm, yeah. Honestly, scary, I guess. Scary and lonely, I think, would be the two adjectives. You know, it was almost like that. There's a weird moment I get, you know, with, okay, I don't know, I'll make it. I love movies. We'll give the movie analogy. Remember Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you know, at the end, but
Sure.
what happened to the kid that you got everything you wanted? Okay, now what? Like, what do you do now? And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
now okay, now you have to do that. And you know, again, you work alongside these people. Anybody who's in student housing and property management knows. I mean, just like the closeness you develop with all the people you work with, and especially when you're in the trenches and on the front lines. And there's no one in this business that doesn't have battle scars. So yeah, it's a weird transition, but I think at the same time, I'm really lucky and thankful that I can say that I'm now running a company and I've had every single position from, you know, at every level. So there's a perspective that I think I can give when I talk to, you know, whether it be our part-time CAs and leasing agents, the site, or the property managers or the regionals, or all of our, you know, maintenance staff or leasing staff. You know, I've been there at a certain point, so there's a relatability I can have. And so I think we're actually it's an advantage for me and for us because I'm not just kind of the old, you know, the old guy in the ivory tower that, you know, has to just give directive. I can
So that's my
talk
job.
about it openly. Yeah. Are you,
Yeah.
I
I
wasn't
said,
talking
that's
about
my job. I'm the old man in the ivory. So you've been through this great journey. And so at the very end of your journey, you land at the president's role. Now you're starting the new journey.
you.
So what's next? Where does Caliber
Mhm.
go? What's your vision? Where do you take the company?
Yeah. Well, we're growing fat. I mean, we set goals and we've already surpassed them for growth. So I think there'll be this year, as everyone, if any of my teams on this call, we're gonna laugh when I say this, but this is the grind year, you know, as if
Yeah.
every year isn't a grind, right? But this is the grind year, and once we kind of get past this next threshold, it really puts us in an opportunity to just expand at a larger rate. And I think it honestly speaks to just the people we have in a climate where so many management companies are consolidating and trying to just fold in or getting out altogether because, you know, again, it can be a dirty business. Here we are that we're actually growing by our own merits and picking up clients for all the right reasons. And we can do that because we do things a little bit differently. We help on different levels. We can help with consulting and brokerage when people are going and looking at a new asset. We can help to a certain degree with capital raising. We can, and the people at our organization understand it more. When you talk to your regionals and things, they're involved enough in these conversations that they can think alongside the ownership and can give better advice and can run the properties more efficiently and honestly provide better service because there's enough involvement and interaction that everybody at all levels here understands what it is to be the owner and to bet your to bet your savings on these things. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've seen good properties and you've seen crap properties. What differentiates a successful student housing property and one that just chugs along or just is not successful?
Yeah, well, I mean, all the Ivy Capital properties, those are obviously all the good ones.
Clearly, clearly.
So that's the first test, I think. But other than that, I said this earlier, but it property management, properties are the vehicle, but we actually, people is what our business is. And it's a difficult business. And so one thing that Rick Jones is the CEO of Caliber, and was, taught me a whole lot. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for everything I learned from Rick. But one of the things that Rick has on his wall was this sign that product, price, promotion, and people. And so they're the four P's of property management. So the product is something that we can't really help. That's your job, Jeff. So if you do that well, we'll handle the other three: price, promotion, and people. And so what we do is look at those three things to decide what can be changed there and where it can be done better. And that often usually makes the difference. So you can't change the location, you can't change the property amenities from one market to another or from one side of town to another. But there can be tweaks made and things, particularly with the people and the promotion, typically, that will usually make the difference. And that's where if you see two direct comps side by side and one's killing it and one isn't, it's usually down to price, promotion, or people. And typically it's promotion and people if it's something like that.
Got it. So when you see a property that's failing, or you come in, Caliber's being brought into the property, what do you do?
Jump in the dumpster. Uh,
Mm,
yeah, no,
love
we,
it.
the first thing you do, what is talk to all the staff. Someone there knows what's going on. And again, not to continue to brag on ourselves, but we, our people, one of the things that is so unique is we're all a collection of people who essentially have been a part of those different properties at times in our career. So we were alongside it. We've seen where these things are going awry, where there's a misunderstanding between ownership and kind of the puppeting or whatever that goes on with the management company, on-site staff. And usually when you go onto a new property, you interview everybody. And it's, I kind of usually make the analogy, it's like investigating like the great murder mystery, right? You interview everybody and there's a thread of truth that's strung between. And then you usually find out what that is. And it's usually a very simple thing, but somehow it gets missed in all the chaos. So the people really make the difference. And sometimes there's someone in charge that is misaligned, or they are misunderstanding what's going on, or salespeople are a huge part of student housing. So getting the right salespeople involved is crucial. And what that means is them understanding the larger strategy of it, as well as being able to sell on the ground. So it usually comes down to those things, right? The rest can all be solved for, in terms of an ownership takeover or recapitalization or something like that, the product piece. But the rest is usually down to, we need to get the right players in the game. And then more importantly, we need to give the right support to the people who are there in terms of strategy, training, and making them feel a part of something bigger, providing opportunities for them for their own career paths and growth. So that's what we do, is we kind of live to support them.
God. So I think my background is hospitality and coming originally from the events world. And uh,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we talk about a lot at Ivy Capital, I know Caliber as well does this, is we talk a lot about um, creating this culture of hospitality so that tenants come home, that they're coming to a place where they feel welcome. And one of the things that I love about student housing over multifamily is that when you move into a multifamily apartment building, you kind of don't care who your neighbors are. If you don't meet them, you're okay with that. You go to your apartment, maybe you go to the pool, and you probably hope nobody talks to you. Uh, but student housing is so different. They want to be part of a community. They want their friends to live with them. They want to create this culture that that um, that they want to actually come home to, and I love that. How
Mm-hmm.
do you teach that to your staff? Like, how does that
Yeah.
actually get from the top of caliber to the part-time leasing assistants?
Yeah. I think that's the secret sauce in it all, right? So it really comes down to understanding expectations and then meeting them. I think if you had to boil it down. So we have this saying that we use in terms of, it's sort of like a decision matrix, if you will, but it's own it, improve it, and communicate it. Okay. So you start with own it. So you need to, in terms of hospitality, you need to understand all the expectations that are coming from the residents, right? So what and their parents, right? They're all people that we were dealing with in terms of our consumers. So you have to understand what their expectations are, and at the same time, you have to understand our processes and the processes that have to happen inside and out. You have to own those, and only when you understand them can you kind of do the first step. Improving them is a whole nother matter. You can always do it more efficiently. And people are usually very impressed on move-in day when you have pre-thought about everything that goes on and you know it so well that people come in, they have an express pass through the move-in line, or you can do remote move-ins. I mean, we've kind of experimented this in so many different ways, but it's really cool to see all of the ideas that property managers come up with to make this process so efficient and so easy for the residents, and it makes all the difference. And then finally, most importantly, is communicate it. So when you understand it, and then you have had your hands in the process as the property manager and the site team, you can over communicate, rather than the opposite, right? And so everybody showing up knows exactly what's going to happen. They're not left in the dark on anything. If they have questions, they're able to find someone to have them answered. All those things are taken care of. So you're meeting people where they are on that. You're understanding what their expectations are, and then you're able to meet it. But if any of those three things are off, you can communicate well, but maybe you didn't have the process down, etc. That's usually where the wild card, the blow up, happens, right? Where something gets missed, someone's expectations aren't met. And then at that point, again, anyone who's been in student housing on a move-in day, what happens when a unit gets missed or something like that happens. It's a quick tumble to the bottom. So it really comes down to those three things.
Got it. Um, how do you get the best leasing results? Give the tips and tricks for your competitors. How do you get the best
My
leasing
secret,
results?
my secret recipe,
What's the secret recipe? What's the secret sauce?
I open up the vault. Yeah, so it plays into that. It's focusing and simplifying the KPIs. And some of these things sound so elementary, but whenever you go and again, you look at properties that are doing things well and they're not doing things well, every single time, I mean, literally every single time we take over a property, this is it. There's such a focus on something that was put in their head that is so important that they're missing the whole point. And so, for us, our defined KPIs are the revenue and occupancy rates, the operational efficiencies, and then property perception. So, and essentially in that order. Um, Sometimes there's a give and take there, but all told, those are the three things. So, in terms of leasing, you're watching for those things. How are we doing everything we possibly can to promote this property? We can't change a market, but we can do everything in our power to do the activity and the controllable elements to get as many leads as we possibly can, even if we're in a leasing drought. We can have the best tours. We can have the best phone calls. If you do every single one of those right, it's scientific. We've tested it over the years. It works. It works every time. And I have had, property managers over the years fight me on that. And I'm like, hey, you're not getting the results, but if you're not doing the calls the way we're teaching them, if you're not following kind of the steps, you know, what do you want me to say? You've got to do it. And every time I see a property that's an anomaly, right, that's just really kicking butt, they're doing that. They're hitting all the KPIs. They're training their teams. They're having perfect phone calls, and we screen the phone calls and grade them. They have the perfect tours when you go. I mean, and on top of that, it's the attitude and the culture at that property is usually better, and it's just because they're in it to win it. I mean, it's a whole attitude shift, but that starts with focusing on the basics, and I think that gives the manager in charge a sense of ease to know that I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job well. There's so many things that come across their desk. There's so many different ideas and things pushed their way that it's very easy to get lost. And I say that because I've had it happen to me, and kind of created this. process out of that, to basically say, let's boil it down, take all the noise out. Here's what here's what the job is. If you're
Yeah.
doing these things, everything will work out. It has yet to fail, but whenever things start to unravel or go awry.
Got it. So, this is, I don't know, my fourth or fifth industry that I've been in over the years. What's so interesting to me is that sales process is the same everywhere. And
Mhm.
it's just the simple funnel of get leads in the top of the funnel and then treat them really well, and they're going to come out the bottom. But it's that simplicity that I think is so important, and then measuring it. It's seeing
That's
those
right.
metrics every minute of the day so you can see what's working, what's not working, that is so, so important. Um,
That's right. Yeah, being able to define the data and make sure that it's accurate and relevant, But yeah, for sure.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, when leasing is failing, why? Like, what do you usually see? Like, what are the real reasons? You come in and you're like, all right, this property's not performing. Like, what is really the
It's
reason, and what
usually
do you
one of
really
those.
do?
I mean, it's price, product, price, promotion, or people.
Yeah.
So when we have the fire call, right? So we're all in the meeting, guys. What do we got to do here? Anyone on the leasing team and the regionals, that we have, well, before the words even come out, where are we at? Is it price? Is it promotion? Is it people? Which one is it? And you can only solve that with the data. It's not a personal thing against anyone, but sometimes you just have people who are taking longer to get it. Sometimes, people there's other dynamics in play. There's It's not like one person's responsible for all the stuff at a property, right? So there's dynamics within that, but at some point there's a people problem where we're not understanding what the strategy is, or we're not able to like execute in the right way. Promotion falls in line with that. Like, is the property hidden behind something? We have to really make sure like no one knows about it. We have to do better, about putting the brand in the right places in front of the right people. Are we missing the mark there, right? Or can we do more there? And then, you know price is a thing, Jeff. Price is a thing. Sometimes owners don't want to hear it, but at a certain point there's a strategy where it's like, listen, if we're covering promotion and people, there's only one more lever left to pull. And that
Yeah.
it's how we approach those situations with our owners to that point. Like, you're not going to hear us come up and say we've got to drop the price unless we have our house in order and we know that, hey, yes, we're covering this, we've got this, and we can have the metrics to prove it, and that's important too, right?
Yeah.
So,
This is definitely something you and I often disagree on. And
oh,
I
yes, uh-huh.
it's true. Because I believe that cutting your prices is, at the end of the day, it's the lazy way, because you failed somewhere else. That's my personal belief on that. And
at,
so
at
we
some
cut
point,
prices
yeah,
where we have
at
to.
some point to that, yeah, and that's where kind of the preemptive communication comes in, right? Like, you've got to
Yep.
go back in time, and at some point we could have pivoted here, this needed to happen that way, right? And yes, to
Yep.
your point, that's usually where you go. But as we know, in student housing, no matter what, there's 10 months to lease it, whether you have 500 beds or 50. So, you know
Yep.
what do we want? And that's hey,
Yep.
it's your
Well,
call to
I
make.
would
But yeah.
see. I would add another P to your list of three, is product, and
Well,
so,
product is in there. Yeah,
but
but that's
so
the problem.
right. So I have found that if the property is really quality, and you're telling the story of the property really well, and then you're
Yeah,
treating people right, price isn't an issue. Price becomes an issue when one of those things are missing, I think,
that's
in
that's
general.
right.
But
And I
doesn't
have
mean
to
it's not
confirm that with
necessary.
you because all my Ivy Capital properties there's nothing wrong with the product there.
So far, we're doing well. We're doing well. Let's see. We've got a
But
few
no,
more
you're
months to
exactly right.
finish.
That's the piece. But in terms of
Yep.
management, that's the
Yep.
uncontrollable part. Is
Yep, we're
where.
almost there though. We're almost there, with almost done with all of our renovations, until we start the next. Let's move to technology. So everybody's talking about AI. I know it's making huge moves across the property management world. At Ivy Capital, we are using it on our acquisition side and at our asset management side. extremely heavily, and I think it's been a lot of trial and error. Some things have worked well, some things have been a big bust. I'm curious, what are you using? How are you transforming Caliber with AI?
Yeah. Um, I think if you asked most most student housing operators, they're going to point to like the obvious tools out there that focus on the efficiencies you can have on site, which are important. Um, for me, that's kind of an assumed thing because that's our lifeblood. We're always looking for a better way, more an efficient way to do it. So there's a lot of AI tools that can handle after hours things and make the process of answering questions and move-ins and all those things more efficient. And so that's a biggie for sure. There's that one to cover it. But actually, just in terms of speaking to it, where I think doesn't get talked about enough is actually internally. You know, there's property man property management. There's so many hats you wear, and there's a lot of details from every facet that get floated across your dashboard, so to speak. And what I've seen with like our taking Claude for instance through Anthropic like across our whole entire like corporate leadership is the how much faster we can make decisions and get them to the property, and how much faster we can interpret data um, and either represent it to our ownership groups or represent it to our site teams. And so I actually see that is for us a small growing group that's been actually huge. I mean, every day we've been using that has been better and more efficient. And I can only imagine as we get into next year and we're continually fine tuning, our skill set with it, how we're able to. I mean, in terms of just our ability to interpret different parts of the budget and reconciling them and variances and diving into
Give me
term
some concrete
and
examples.
turn
Give me some real
contracts.
concrete examples.
Yeah, turn contracts are a great example. So, you have all these different contracts with all these different people. You need to look at all the data from your prior. You need to look at all the current data to do year-over-year analyses. But at the same time, there's nuances to all the properties if you don't have a full data set, if there were anomalies that happen. And for, at an investment grade and asset manager level, this sounds somewhat probably rudimentary because that's the kind of side of the business that y'all come from. But for our side and the operations side, that's honestly a really large hurdle that we have to teach our teams how to understand and do. And it's not necessarily something that comes naturally. They're in a role that is primarily focused on customer service, and so that's what they see first, and their kind of relationship with their residents is usually going to come first. Teaching them how to interpret budgets and numbers and year over year analyses is we spend a great deal of time on that, and this has tremendously helped that. So, again, typically their part of it's going to be budgets, but turn contracts, interpreting different agreements we get, analyzing lease documents. I mean, all of that stuff is just it's been great. I mean, doing our budgets this year for all of our owners. And even ones that have, we have limited amount of data to go off of, interpreting it from the last management group or the last owner. I mean, it would have taken us honestly months to do a lot of the stuff that's taken us weeks. So
Yeah. I'd say on our front, we're kind of going down the same road, and it is Claude, where we integrate Claude into everything. Uh, we're using Granola, we're using Fixer, we're using what else were you Whisper Flow. That's my new favorite. I don't type anything. I use Whisper Flow. But I think the most
I need
impactful. Oh, it's so great. It's so great. Um, the most impactful thing I think we've done so far, though, is Zach from our team uh, uh, set up a dashboard where when you as the property manager sends the financials, it automatically loads the financials in, and we have several property management companies that we work from, and everybody sends things in a different format, and
yep.
so it turns it into a standard format. But then he can see with just a red light, green light approach what properties are doing well, which are not. He can dig down into the detail based on this dashboard that he created. It shows our leasing velocity property by property. It was an incredible piece of work. And it saved us so much time and energy, but also it's made his life so much easier. Um, but I
Well, we all know
absolutely
he's the real backbone at Ivy Capital, right? Zach makes it
one of three. I'm not one
right.
of them. One of three, yes. Very true. But it's been absolutely incredible. You mentioned the after hours agents, and things like that. Are you guys using any of that yet?
We're building our own custom one, actually. So rather than relying on some of the products that are out there, which are great, by the way, they have their use,
Mhm.
but um, again, we try to think of things a little bit differently. And in a world where property management, there's not a lot of profitability points if you're just thinking about fee, right? And I don't really believe that we should think about it in that way. And so what we're trying to do is think of ourselves not necessarily as a property management company, but how are we providing value and kind of going into this next phase? So we actually invested in basically having our own enterprise agents built that at some point in the near future, going into next year is really the goal for the full scale rollout. They'll be able to handle all the incoming traffic and essentially you won't totally be able to know the difference. After hours, they'll be able to try to resolve things or tell someone whether it's a truly you need to talk to someone tonight, or you can let our our maintenance people sleep that they definitely deserve, and it can wait till tomorrow morning. That's a biggie. Obviously incoming traffic during the day. For any property managers that are listening here, you'll know what happens when you have 8 hours in a day you're working, which by the way, 8 hours would be a very short day for I think most of our property managers. We're probably more like 10 or 12 sometimes, especially this season. Um, but one phone call from one resident or one problem hijacks the rest of your day. So having something that can handle, particularly again in turn season, just the regular questions: what size are the beds? What day is the move-in day? How much is my rent? When's it due? The mundane questions, handling that, and then obviously building outward agents where we can chase down delinquency that way. I mean, you talk about an ROI, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge. Leasing, like we'll never, ever, ever, we'll never take a human element out of leasing on the front end. But where I see the value is essentially in what in the real estate business you would call contracts to close. So there's
Mhm.
a lot of hand holding that goes in the process after someone's already agreed to lease with us. So you have to follow up, you have to get the guarantor to sign, you have to send the right paper. I mean, these are perfect things that AI can really fill in for and send reminders and answer basic questions to basically get things from that initial application sent or lease sent to then close. And I think now our kind of closing timeline is usually about 10 days. If
Mhm.
we take this on, I mean, you're inside a week easy. You could be down to 3 days or something like that. The ideal world, right, would be 24 hours. I think, right. I want to if you're talking to someone taking a tour, and then by the next day the lease is totally approved. That would be so. And I don't think we're far off from
That's
that.
incredible.
So yeah,
I can't wait to see it. It sounds absolutely amazing. All right,
yeah.
so as we're getting close to the end and we're just going a little over time here, uh, give somebody your opinion. What are the markets if they are looking to buy student housing? What are the markets that are hot? Where would you be shopping right now if you're buying student housing property?
I know where I'm shopping.
Where are you shopping?
Um,
Give
I
it
love
away.
Mobile, Alabama. We love Mobile, Alabama right now. And I think it's only maybe starting to trickle onto people's radar. Um, I think I'm a big believer in Statesboro. Love that market. And I think there's probably a story to be told here in we love LA Tech, and I would actually say, and some of my team may disagree, but I think there's a story to be told in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I think that we're probably looking out and no one's really going to see that. But in a year from now, I think you could probably have a different story being told there.
Great advice. Great advice. Our acquisitions team is going to start looking at all those areas.
There you go.
So I'm grateful for it. While we're wrapping up, if anyone has any questions for Jake, please put them in the question and answer chat. We'd be happy to answer any questions. But Lucia, why don't you put up the Santa Fe slide here and let me give a little shameless plug at least for the latest thing that Ivy Capital is working on. We're going to be closing uh, mid-July on just short of 1,200 beds of student housing in Gainesville, Florida. It is a value-add property, 25% IRR, about 2.5 times your money is what we're looking at. Uh, we are actually oversubscribed on this already, but we're still collecting uh, some backup just in case somebody doesn't fund, but we are pretty far oversubscribed on it. So we raised 15.5 million for this, which was our largest raise. And this takes us up to about 2,700 beds of student housing on our way, trying to get to about $1 billion of assets in 5 years. So we're rolling along. But very proud of the team for the progress they made on this, and this is going to be a big deal for us. And then let's see, why don't you go to Jake's contact info? Look at that pretty face. So if you guys would like to get in touch with Jake, use Caliber Living. They do an amazing job. Uh, or just talk to Jake personally. He's a wonderful guy, and I'm sure he would be happy to hear from everybody. Jake, any last closing thoughts?
That's right. No, I'm Jeff. Thanks for having me on here today and having our usual frank and fun conversations. And I would say the same. You know, if there's ever a group that you're wondering where you want to invest and place some of your money as an LP investor, Ivy Capital guys hit home runs only. That's the only thing I've ever seen. So
Only home
um,
runs.
thank you, Jeff, for believing in us and helping us to get here because we couldn't have done it without you and your team. So
Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, thank you for listening in and hope to hear from more of you. So please reach out and enjoy the rest of your day.